All right, so we're checking out another lithium iron phosphate 12.8 volts 100 amp hour battery. This one here is from a company called Vatrer. And of course, just like other companies that sell these lithium iron phosphate batteries, they do sell them in other sizes and different capacities. So this is kind of the typical size, 12.8 volts and 100 amp hours. And in terms of how this particular battery compares in size to another one that I reviewed previously, the Golden Mate 100 amp hour battery, it's pretty similar in size. I'm almost identical. Maybe the Vatrer is just a tiny bit taller. And dimension-wise, it's 13 inches wide, about 6.9 inches deep, and about 8.6 inches tall. And it weighs about 24.2 pounds. So pretty similar to a lot of other 12.8 volt 100 amp hour batteries out there. This is a pretty standard size. Now, there's a couple of different things about this particular battery from Vatrer that kind of sets it apart from a lot of other batteries that don't have these features. It's the low temperature charging self-heating ability. So when this battery detects the temperature falls below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is freezing, there's an actual mechanism inside the battery that will self-heat the battery and warm it back up to about 41 point something degrees. And then at that point it shuts off and it allows the battery to charge. And that's very important because lithium iron phosphate, this chemistry is very sensitive to low temperatures. It doesn't do well in freezing temperatures. In fact, if you attempt to charge the battery when the battery temperature is too low, close to freezing or below, it can not only damage the battery, it can permanently kill the battery. So there's a lot of protections in place. This one has it, just like a lot of other batteries. Low temperature protection is very important for this chemistry. And it will not allow the battery to charge if the temperature falls below 32 degrees. And also it has a discharge cutoff at negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit. So it will allow the battery to discharge at below 32 degrees Fahrenheit all the way down to negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is kind of amazing. But yeah, charging the battery at that temperature is actually really dangerous. Apparently discharging it below freezing still works, but not recommended. And the other feature that makes this battery stand out from the other 100 amp hour batteries is it has a Bluetooth app connection to the BMS. And we will talk about that in great detail shortly. And in terms of the rest of the specs here, it is 100 amps max charge and 100 amps max discharge. That's pretty standard for 100 amp hour battery. And the capacity is 100 amp hours, or in this case at this voltage, it's 1280 watt hours. So just a quick look at the other stuff you get in the box. Pretty standard. You get a warranty card. It does have a 5-year standard warranty. I think that's a little bit more than some of the others out there. Maybe others are like 2-3 years. 5 years is pretty decent. Has this nice little manual here, and this manual covers the 100 amp hour version and the 200 amp hour version. In terms of what's inside the battery, I did some research on other people that have reviewed this particular capacity, and I found that over the past few years of this particular battery came out, the exterior looks the same. So it's got the same sticker, the same battery box, the sort of ABS plastic. It looks identical to the batteries of the same capacity from about 2 or 3 years ago. The internals have changed. So people have opened them up, and the build inside has sort of all been, upgraded or tweaked over time. And that's kind of normal. I would expect a manufacturer to get feedback from its customers and, improve the product, which is essentially what's been going on. So even I look back at some reviews from maybe like 6 to 8 months ago, and it looks different from the photos that they sent me for the current iteration of this battery. So I'm putting up photos here of what this particular series, or this, version looks like right now as of January 2025. So, of course, if you're watching this in the far future, it might be different again. So that's something that obviously you can't really control. Manufacturers will alter the design and tweak it a little bit over time, typically to give you a little bit better longevity durability, those kind of things. They sort of take those things into account and try and improve the product. But I'm not a battery build expert or engineer, so even if I opened up this one and looked inside, I couldn't really tell you if it's a good build or not. I'm just going to show you what this is supposed to look like as of January 2025, and you guys can make your own decision as to whether or not you feel it's a good build or not. But they did tell me that when they sent me the photos that this particular battery, the 100 amp hour version that does not have the Bluetooth app and the self-heating, in terms of the battery build itself, it's the same. It still has the same 4-cell, the prismatic cells inside, and the build in terms of putting the cells together is the same. The only difference is that it doesn't have the self-heating pad that's on the bottom that heats up the battery, and the BMS is different, of course, because this one has the Bluetooth connection that you can connect to the smartphone app. Now, just taking a quick look at the manual, pretty decent manual. I mean, usually the manuals that come with these batteries aren't very detailed, but this one covers the 100 amp hour and the 200 amp hour. It has specs here like charge rates and the weight, specifications. This one is also IP65 waterproof rated. I think that's also pretty standard for a lot of batteries. And talks about long-term storage, how to connect the battery in parallel and series. Pretty standard stuff. It even has some discharge curves at different temperatures. So yeah, lots of good information and data in the manual. And then just talk about the app, and we'll talk about that here now. All right, so I've already downloaded and installed the app on my phone, and you'll see that the device will show up here, and the Bluetooth is always on, but I found that I've left this on connected for like about a week, and the actual state of charge has not gone down. And even in the week that it's been on, so there's something going on inside there where I think it uses Bluetooth low energy. So obviously 1280 watt hours is a ton. And if it's using Bluetooth low energy, then it's going to be drawing very little amount of power. But I did notice when it goes to sleep, I guess the Bluetooth is off, like technically off, and then you'll note, you saw it there when you connected, it was off and then it turned on. So I think there's a mechanism, I think it's part of the Bluetooth low energy protocol that actually puts the Bluetooth to sleep. And then when it detects that your phone wants to connect to it, it wakes it up. And of course you have that connection here. And it basically shows you just information about like the current voltage, current draw, and power draw, watts going in and out, and also shows you the different voltage levels for each of the cells, and also the voltage differences between the cells. So if you go down here to the bottom, it shows you the different cell voltages. It does active balancing, and then also shows you the temperature inside there. So it's 22.3 degrees Celsius or 72.1 degrees Fahrenheit is the current battery temperature. Is very important to keep track of that, and also shows you the number of cycles on there because I've already done a full charge and discharge cycle. We'll talk about that as well. But here it shows 97% state of charge. And then you'll see as I'm talking about the different tests I did show the app in terms of the current draw, voltage, and power. You'll see that here as I talk about it there shortly. So when I first got the battery, I did check the voltage coming out of the box, and it was at your basic storage voltage, about 13.2 volts, which is about 50% capacity, which is normal for shipping a battery of this type. Then I charged the battery up to 100% with, I have a lithium iron phosphate battery charger that goes to 35 amps max. And I did a capacity test. So I basically ran the battery from 100% down to 0%. And I use a capacity tester running it around 120 to 125 watts. And so basically, yeah, during this test at about an hour, 112 watt hours had been basically burned off by the capacity tester. Then after about 10 hours, about 1215 watt hours had been burned off. Then about 10 and a half hours into it, about 1288 watt hours was burned off. And then the complete test, which took a total of 10 hours and 43 minutes, produced a total capacity of 1,303 watt hours, which is actually more than what it's rated for, which is normal. Typically, this it's rated for 1,280 watt hours. Typically, when they're brand new, they'll have a higher capacity than what it's rated for, just because as the battery ages, the capacity does kind of decrease a little bit. So to give you a little bit extra at the beginning of the battery, and it'll slowly drop off over time. But even after 5,000 cycles, which is what this battery is rated for, you'll still have a capacity of about 80% of the 1280 watt hours, which is, after 5,000 cycles, which is going to be, depending on what your usage is in terms of usage case, that could be as long as 10 years and well past the warranty period. Now, in terms of total charging power, the biggest thing that can, in terms of putting current into this battery, is my lithium iron phosphate charger at 35 amps. And when the battery is pretty much at the end, when it's empty at like 1%, it was charging at 35 amps, which is the max of my charger. Obviously, the BMS can handle up to 100 amps, but I don't have anything that can pump that much current. Now, in terms of my discharging tests, I did a test at 35 amps, which is about half of what my, I have a 1000 watt inverter connected to this, and that did fine. I was able to run that, for a long period of time, no problem. Didn't actually stress the battery out at all. And then I ran the test again at 90 amps. Basically, this time going over or close to the 1280 watts limits. About 90 amps is almost 100 amps, which is the max of the BMS. And the battery had no problems handling that whatsoever. Didn't have any issues. My inverter, however, didn't like that because it went over 1,000 watts, and the BMS in the battery didn't cut out. The inverter on the self-protection on my inverter cut out because it's rated for 1,000 watts. It can go a little bit over for not very long though. So when I was hitting like 1,200, 1,300 watts for several minutes, the inverter actually shut off, unfortunately. Yeah, so overall, definitely happy with this battery. I love the self-heating feature and especially the Bluetooth app. I think this is definitely going to be my standard in terms of like what I'm going to compare other batteries to. Obviously, this is going to cost a little bit more, especially for that Bluetooth app feature. Not a lot of these 12-volt batteries have that feature, and they do cost a bit more. Now, if you don't particularly care about that, or if you have a separate battery monitor with a Bluetooth feature, then of course that's redundant. You don't need that. Then yeah, of course, go for the 100 amp hour battery without the Bluetooth feature. It's going to cost you a fair bit of money less. It's not quite double, but you pay a fair premium for the Bluetooth feature. But if you want to monitor the battery and not have any additional things connected to it, this basically gives you information directly from the BMS, and you don't really get that from a lot of other batteries out there. Anyway, I'll have a link in the video description if you guys want to check this one out. That'll be it for this video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.